have been at the Union Institute since 1987, and I have nowhere in the world come across a place like this. And that's because all of our learners, mostly without exception, come to us thinking out of the box, thinking of problems from a solution standpoint instead of a problem standpoint, thinking of a greater vision of their lives, of their work, and so on and so forth. So I'm very, very happy to do this with you. This experience will teach you how to look at things with the intention of taking the skills that you learn here to a bigger forum, to your life, to your work, where you live, in your work in your community, work in your family, so on and so forth. But before we get into the program as such, I wanted to do a quick tour of a few objects right here in the museum. Not only because this happens to be some of my most favorite objects, but also because it's going to warm us up. You know, we should feel free to make comments which might not be the right answer, but that's fine. There are no right or wrong answers as such. It's all what you bring to the process of looking at art. Okay? So like I said, these are the oldest, some of the oldest pieces in the museum, these objects that you see over here. And I want you all to guess what this object might be and what this object is made of. And I'll give you a hint. These objects are about 6,000 years old. About 6,000 years old. The Cincinnati Art Museum happens to be one of the top 10 museums in the country. We have 100,000 objects, but at any one time we can only display about 10,000. So there's constant rotation and so on and so forth. So these objects that you're seeing over here, what might they be, and what is the material that was used to make them? And again, there are no right or wrong answers. If you screw up, it's fine. It's just as a way, excuse me?
Clay?
It's clay, no.
Stone?
Close, but not quite. Excuse me?
Bones.
Animal bones, bingo. There we go. And what is the purpose of this object? A long time ago when art was initially made, it was not made so that people could come to a museum and see them through a case. These objects were made so that they served a purpose. Excuse me? Not quite. I guess they let dental work sit for a while.
Looks to me like a phallic symbol.
A phallic symbol, okay. Yes? Some type of tool. Yes? Eating. These are all wonderful guesses, but not quite. Digging, excellent, but not quite. Okay, so when you all were in preschool, in kindergarten, in elementary school, how did you first portray the human body? How did you do it? Did you draw stick figures? Yeah? So there was a big round thing, one line over here, two lines looking down, two legs like that. Okay, so these are the first stick figures, made so that people who were living in caves, living in primitive societies could express their artistic inclinations. So this was a need that people have had throughout the ages, to the need to express how they're feeling and thinking.
How do you know that?
Excuse me? Because it's recorded. And there were thousands of these that were found. Thousands of these. So these were the initial stick figures. So basically, I did not make it up. I mean, this is the work of scholars and so on and so forth. And then quickly, I mean, look at the evolution of human thinking, of human expressiveness. Very quickly, we go from here to here, where very definitely you can see the human form. Can you not? And it is interesting because the women, you know, they're all in this position. This is a man, but all the men over here, all the men who were found 6,000 years ago seem to have this bun at the nape of their neck, okay? But the women do not have it. So the next object that we look at is this one right here. And I gave you a hint. I did indicate that the men would have long hair, which they put up on their neck, but the women don't seem to have that, okay? So obviously this is a woman then, because I've given it away. And it is from that same time period. It's made in the Cycladic islands off of Greece. And I want you to guess what the material is and what this might have been used for. It is marble, yes. And the Cycladic Islands, that area was very, very prolific in its, they had a lot of marble which they were able to dig up and use. What is the use of this object?
Monuments for dead?
Excuse me?
Monuments for dead, cemeteries?
Excellent. Monuments for dead. Can someone expand on that a little bit more? Monuments for the dead.
Like a mausoleum.
Like a mausoleum. So this would be outside the grave as an indicator? Not quite. Not quite, but you're very close.
Can you use as a marker, headstone?
As a headstone? No, no. So let's look at this woman and see if we can get other hints. Basically, she's looking up. Her face would have been painted a very, very bright red, sort of, brighter than this even. And, her head would have been painted black, and the rest of it is in marble. The tone of the marble, her legs would have been complete. So obviously, through time, we have lost her legs and her nose. And she's sort of cradling something in her arms, right? So what is the purpose of this? And you'll have hit it right on the head. It's used in a grave. But, excuse me? She's pregnant. Does she look it? Not quite. Excuse me? First or second month. Okay, well, we're not going to go there. Maybe she is, but we don't have.
Is she in mourning?
Death of a mother, not quite, very, very close. Signifying the death of a mother, not quite. Death of a child, bingo. See, this group is so smart. You all get it. You all get it. So basically, 6,000 years ago, when human mortality was at a very, very low stage in its evolution, just because there were no modern medicines and so on and so forth, a lot of children died when they were born or very early on, infant mortality. And so the parents felt very, very sad to bury the child under the earth. So this is like a safety blanket or a doll or something that the child would have been attached to, except that this is a nurse mother. That's what she's called, a nurse mother. And every child would be buried with something like this. Pretty incredible, isn't it? Yeah. So we jumped from the Cycladic Islands near Greece to Egypt, which is in northern Africa. Okay? What are these used for?
Eating.
Excuse me?
Eating or serving.
Heating or serving. Good guess, not quite. What are these objects used for? This is Egypt now. We are in Egypt, northern Africa. And what is this used for? Think of Egypt. What kind of weather do we have over there?
Hot fans.
Very, very hot.
Fans.
Excuse me?
Like a fan.
Some type of fan? Except that you might hit someone with this piece of stone while you're fanning yourself.
To store water.
To store water? Mm-hmm. Those things over there, right? But I'm talking about these pieces over here.
So they look like they might be used to keep people cool in some way.
Okay, good guess. You're getting closer. So then Egypt, the climate, it's very hot. It's totally without humidity. And the sun is very, very bright and hot. Okay, there are no cloud layers. The sun is not way up in the sky. And so at all times, both men and women need protection from the sun. So even though glasses were invented in the 12th century, this is about 3,000 to 4,000 years old. And we need something to protect our eyes, right? From the glaring sun, the sun glare, we need to protect it. So having given you that hint, what is this used for then? In ancient Egypt, both men and women wore a lot of makeup. They not only wore the black kohl, which is sort of like the black eyeliner, but they wore very, very heavy blue eyeshadow. And this was not meant to make them look gorgeous or whatever, but it had a very practical function. It was meant for them to protect their eyes, so however long they lived, they could have good eyesight. They would be able to prevent from the glare and so on and so forth. Additionally, it was the mark of beauty in women to paint the veins. You know how in the upper part of your chest you have veins that pop out sometimes? So to paint the veins and to paint their nipples a very, very bright gold. So basically every day then they would take out the pigments from the earth, color pigments. They would make the eye makeup on this with oil and with the pigment. And that's what they would wear.
It's like a palette.
It's like a palette. Yes, yes. And very quickly we went to a form that is sort of representative, that you can recognize the human form. This is the Egyptian canon of proportion, okay? Every culture has its own rules as to how the body is represented. This is the Egyptian canon of proportion. And I want us to participate and sort of to get interactive over here and tell me, what is this human body like? What is this human body like in relation to what you saw in the Cycladic in Greece? Much more detail to the face, and of course that's the wig that they wear. A lot of facial features. Do you see the eye makeup, the heavy, heavy eye makeup? You can see traces of that. But it's very, very unidimensional. It's very solid. She has her big feet firmly planted on the ground, and they are still working out the details, the proportions of the body. They still haven't gotten it right. And of course, all women wore very, very thin clothes, and you could almost see their body through the clothes. So, the details of the body are very, very well represented. So this is the Egyptian way of doing the body.